Is travel nursing worth it these days? Truthfully, it's a loaded answer, and we're going to need some wine for this one. I have been a NICU nurse for almost a decade, and I spent 7 of those years as a travel nurse. And I have a lot to say about travel nursing these days. We need to start by discussing both the pros and cons of travel nursing before we decide if travel nursing is going to be worth it, and my thoughts on the industry these days. Let's start with the pros, and the most obvious one being your pay. So travel nurses will get paid one time per week, which is more than staff nurses who get paid twice a month. Generally, your paycheck will be higher than what you would take home in 1 week as a staff nurse, and sometimes in 2 weeks as a staff nurse. I know for me, when I was a new grad, I was taking home $1,300 every 2 weeks. I know. At my lowest paying travel nurse job, I was taking home $13 every single week. I need a drink when I remember how low I was paid as a staff nurse. One of the biggest pros to travel nursing, in my opinion, is simply the flexibility. You can choose when you want to work. If you don't want to work Christmas, you don't have to work Christmas. You can choose where you want to work in the United States. So if you're somebody who is debating, oh, I think I might want to live in San Francisco, but maybe I want to live in Scottsdale, why don't you take a travel nurse job in each place and see what's better for you? You also have the opportunity to take so much time away from the bedside. So if you're like me and you absolutely love to travel, then why don't you use travel nursing as an opportunity to travel? When I was a travel nurse, I was taking 3+ months off between every contract, every 2 contracts, to travel and see the world. One of the most exciting times in my travel nurse career was when I took 5 months off from 2018 to 2019, and I traveled solo through Europe and Southeast Asia. And third, this can be taken as a pro or a con, but you get the chance to experience a lot of different hospitals and a lot of different ways to do the same exact thing. Now, this is a con because obviously it can be really frustrating to have to change the way you do things, especially when you know a more efficient way. But it's a pro because you get to learn from so many new people. You can then take all of your knowledge into your next job, into your staff nurse job, and you can really teach others, what you've learned, what maybe works best, using evidence-based care and evidence-based practice, and you become very adaptable and very flexible. But with the pros, there's always some cons. I think the biggest con to travel nursing is that you are always the new person, and this can feel very isolating and it can cause burnout, right? So you're always the new nurse, you don't know others' names, people don't know your name, and it can feel a little bit tiring and isolating. You're constantly the new person, always having to prove yourself, always having to prove your skills, always feeling like you are starting back at square one every 13 weeks. You don't receive the same benefits as a staff nurse, right? So you are not going to get a lot of PTO accrual, if any. You are not going to get the first pick at the schedule. You will probably be working most weekends and be the last to choose your schedule. And then there's not a lot of job security. I talked about contract cancellation very briefly. That is something that you would have to consider. And a third huge con in this industry is housing. It can be extremely difficult these days to find housing as a travel nurse, and it can be incredibly expensive. It's not impossible, and you might have to adjust your expectations, but this is definitely a con to being a travel nurse. Is travel nursing worth it? In my opinion, yes. I think that the travel nurse industry will always ebb and flow. I think that when I got into travel nursing in 2016, it was at a low point. The rates were down. There wasn't a whole lot of information about travel nursing. And I was okay getting into travel nursing at a low point because I just wanted to travel the world, right? And travel the United States. Throughout my 7 years, I worked through the highs of travel nursing, through the COVID contracts, through the times that travel nurses were taking home $10,000 a week. And I feel like that was kind of the peak of travel nursing, right? And of course, everything that goes up comes down. So right now, the industry is at another low point. I think now is a really good time to get into the industry if you want to try it out and you plan to stick around for a while. But I think that travel nursing will recover with higher rates. I think we're already starting to see higher rates, and I'm hoping that it will continue to grow. Now, something that I've seen people talk about is there aren't as many job opportunities. Are hospitals switching to like hiring internally versus travel nurses? I did reach out to my travel nurse recruiter about that, and she said that actually we are starting to see more job openings. So again, the industry will ebb and flow, right? And yes, some hospitals are trying to use an internal like staffing model, but it's not going so well. And all of those hospitals that are trying it out are still hiring travel nurses and kind of heading back into the travel nurse model. So I believe that travel nursing is on the rise once again. I think travel nursing is worth it, but is it worth it for you? This is such a gray zone, right? To me, travel nursing was life changing. It literally has given me the best friends, the best life experiences, more money, more time off to be with family during important moments, the opportunity to travel the world. I've been to 50 countries now, and I would not have made that. I would not have been able to do that without travel nursing and taking these big breaks between assignments. But it is not a one size fit all. Some people do not have the personality to be a travel nurse. Some people think it's too lonely, it's too stressful, and I totally respect that. But here's what I'll say. If you are watching this video and you are thinking, it might be worth it for me, I'm not sure. You never want to look back at your life in 10 years and think, wow, I really wish I had tried being a travel nurse, okay? You want to look back on your life in 10 years and think, okay, I tried travel nursing and it wasn't for me. But I'm glad I tried it, because worst case scenario, it's not for you and you go back to staff. Best case scenario though, it is for you and you have a life-changing experience. If you're considering travel nursing, I hope that this provided some clarity on the industry these days. And if you have any more questions, please leave me a comment below. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more travel nurse tips. Cheers, gals.